Hello and welcome to the Quincy Access Television Studios. I'm Mark Crosby. Thank you for joining us for StateView, a program that looks at issues that really go beyond the city limits. Joining me today as a guest is State Representative Bruce Ayers. Bruce, welcome back.
Hey, nice to be here again, Mark. Thank you.
Always a pleasure to have you. We should mention that on the table is a QATV gift that you were given by us, and you had mentioned that you will have a purpose for it in your office.
That's right. I appreciate the gift, and I got a good spot right in my office for it, so it'll get some good use.
And it ended up being a set piece here for this show, so that worked out as well. We should mention that you utilize Quincy Access Television quite a bit. You have your own program, Legislative Update, which you tape here. You come in and take questions on StateView. Obviously, you are a proponent of Access Television.
Well, I am, Mark, and I appreciate the opportunity, to interview with you and a recent show with Congressman Lynch. What we try to do, obviously, is get the word out to our constituents of some of the matters that we're deliberating over on Beacon Hill. And, some of the topics we try to cover, we base them on the amount of phone calls and emails and office visits we get, so that we can make the shows as interesting as we can and allow people to find out ways to get in touch with us. And it's been it's been a great tool and a big help.
Well, with that said, we should mention that this program was basically based just on that, on phone calls, on emails that you have gotten recently. And with that said, also, if you could give out your contact information.
Sure. They can reach me a number of different ways. My phone number is 617-722-2230. They can email me at brucej, as in Joseph, .ayers@yahoo.com. We're also on social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So there's a number of different ways people can get in touch with me, my office, and if they'd like to meet personally, every Friday we hold office hours from 9:30 to 11 by appointment. So if they want to discuss some of the topics we may be discussing today or discuss a budgetary or legislative matter, I'd be more than happy to meet with them.
You are currently working with the state police. Talk about your work within your jurisdiction.
Yes, with the state police, as a legislator, our most important role is to make sure that our district, and in my case, it's the city of Quincy, the town of Randolph, are getting the constituent services for their area. State police being one of them. And the city of Quincy, in this case, has a big area, Wollaston Beach. We have Willard Street, we have the Blue Hills, and a number of different areas around that community. As a legislator, we talk to the people in charge, and in this case, it's Major Grenham out of the South Boston Barracks, and also Ken Halloran, our legislative liaison, to make sure that we're getting the proper state police patrols. Currently, Mark, there are 3 state police patrols that cover South Boston, Dorchester, Quincy, and 10 miles of I-93. So in the summertime, particularly in Wollaston Beach, and now that the beach is done, we need to protect it. It's getting a lot more popular. The renovations have come out fantastic. But along with that, we need to make sure that it's going to be clean and safe so that people want to bring their family, their friends there. So with that, I recently had an opportunity to speak with some of the officials to make sure that we're going to have a designated patrol for summer months. Working with the delegation and Senator Keenan to get the necessary funds for regular patrols, unmarked patrols, the motorcycles, and even occasionally a walking beat. We want to deter loitering, littering, speeding, and unruly behavior. Set a zero tolerance policy, and the state police have been great like that. So, I certainly encourage anyone watching today, come the summer months or the springtime, if they see anything like that, please contact my office or contact the state police. We'd be more than happy to look into it.
Next, as we go through, again, topics that were basically inquiries from constituents, the Department of Conservation and Recreation State Parks Caucus.
Yes, I'm actually the co-chair of the DCR State Caucus, along with my other chairman, Senator Rush. And what we do basically is we work with other legislators and senators to address the needs of the DCR property throughout the entire Commonwealth. There's roughly 152 state-owned parks and about 450,000 acres. And each district is unique. There's a lot of walking trails, beaches, campsites that all need to be properly maintained and preserved. Closer to home in areas that I have, it's very unique. We have Squantum Point Park, we have Wollaston Beach, we have the Shea Rink, we have Priscilla Park in Randolph, a lot of densely populated areas. So I make a practice to have the commissioner or representatives from the Department of Conservation and Recreation come right to the district. And the reasoning for that is I want to make sure there's not going to be any jurisdictional matters or any confusion of whose responsibility it might be for some of the equipment and labor required to make sure that the parks are properly maintained. Sometimes it can be jurisdictional issues, it might be the city or the state, but I found by having the officials come right down before the season, we can kind of walk through the area, we can address what needs to be done, and it's been a big boost for us as the season gets going.
We should mention, I believe, in the fall, previous fall, there was a ceremony held at Caddy Park, and the DCR was involved in that, and that had to do with signage.
That's right. One of the final things we were doing for the Wollaston Beach improvements, the signage now gives people who visit the area a great idea of some of the history in different areas and walking trails and paths that are available and the history behind the whole area. But, with the help of the delegation, there's been roughly $9 million invested into Wollaston Beach. It's come an awful long way since I grew up in Quincy. I still live on William Street where I grew up. It's a great place to learn to swim, fish, sail, and, we want to make sure that it's up to its full potential and it's going to be protected. And
it's educational at the same time.
That's
with
correct.
These signs.
That's right.
Talk about funding. Funding comes up probably on a daily basis. How do you go about getting funding for your district?
It's probably one of the most important things as legislators we do. Just as important it is to make sure we're getting our fair share of state services. We need to make sure that we're getting our fair share of funding to our districts. Right now we're looking over Governor Patrick's $36 billion budget. And, as legislators, we got to make sure that we're getting as much funding possible for our cities and towns, whether it's local aid, Chapter 70 educational money, Chapter 90 roads and bridges, so that the city councils can allocate that appropriately. But, it's also just important to make sure that the other state grant programs like the Community Preservation Coalition that was created through the CPA, that there's necessary funding available for that. And that basically works where the state will provide matching funds to the city of Quincy or the town of Randolph for investing their dollars together on improvements. The CPC has done some great work in both areas. It's a great program where people get involved in the community to make enhancements, whether it's parks, historic preservation, open space. In Braintree, in Randolph, it's gone through Brian Howard, the clerk, and in Quincy, Lisa Armola, who do a great job with it. These projects are brought to them, and then they're approved by the council, and then the state will help with reimbursement grants. But in Randolph, they've done Stetson Hall, they've done Powers Farm, the dog park. In Quincy, there's been a number of different areas, the Neponset River Walking Trail. There's been a lot of work done with some of the schools and other associated parks. So again, as a legislator, we want to make sure that our constituents are aware of this and community groups are involved and the betterment of the city or town they live in.
Next, schools and education, specifically the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Folks, of course, would be familiar with that organization through the use of that organization for the new Quincy High School, funding for the new Quincy High School, funding for the new Central Middle School, and up next, Sterling.
That's right, which is great news. You know, and again, this the school building authority was created by the state legislature, excuse me, in 2004, and Treasurer Cahill and now Treasurer Grossman have done a great job. You know, the city of Quincy and the town of Randolph have had some great improvements made. As you alluded to, the high school, the Central Middle School, now Sterling, excuse me. You know, there's a process that they go through. You know, the SBA has a 7-member board that will review. There's an eligibility period that they look over the proposals that are sent to them. You know, the cities and towns identify what schools they want to improve, what type of renovations or rebuilding that's required. The board will look it over in the eligibility period. Then there'll be a feasibility study, a schematic review, and go through various steps through the boards. So the board has to approve each step. And again, as a legislator, it's our role to advocate each step it goes through to make sure that, you know, again, we're getting what we can for our schools, you know, whether they need to be renovated, what types of repairs have to be done. They also have an accelerated repair program that schools can take advantage of. You know, in Randolph, they're making some repairs to the high school roof or the middle school. There's some accelerated repairs being done to like the Walson School, things like associated with cost-saving measures like with their boilers, replacing their windows. Things like that make a big difference in some of the costs that are associated with it. So it's just another way to help defray some of the costs off the local city budgets by having programs out there, whether it's the CPC or the SBA.
Animal cruelty. This brings up naturally the puppy doe case, which made national headlines. Talk about that and legislation you have to basically have these abusers pay.
Yes, the puppy doe case, you know, it's hard to fathom how someone could torture a poor, defenseless animal like they did. You know, I had sponsored a bill earlier in the year in January, House Bill 1182, because I felt at the time the laws in the Commonwealth weren't strong enough to protect our animals. And then if one thing that the puppy doe case did is it brought to light the need for tougher laws in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I had a bill 1182 that would strengthen the law, tougher fines and penalties. Currently, the law in Massachusetts, Chapter 90, Section 722, is that the fine is only $2,500 and only 2.5 years in prison. But it never really happens. It's more of a slap on the wrist. What we did with the puppy doe case is now gain support from other legislators. I'm working with some of my colleagues, matter of fact, Representative Luke Kofker of Sharon, and also Senator Bruce Tarr of Gloucester. They have some good bills that we've co-sponsored together. I'll give you a few examples. Senator Tarr has what we call the PAWS Act. What this PAWS Act would do is a few things added to the current laws. It would add an anonymous tip hotline, so people could call in if they see some of these animal abuse cases. It would also give the courts more leverage to impose stricter fines and penalties against animal abuse cases. And it would also set up a registry of these animal abusers so that pet stores, animal shelters, and animal breeders could cross-check who these abusers were. With the current law at $2,500, we're raising that. We're hoping to raise that up to $25,000. And with the current jail time from 2.5 years, we want to raise that up to 10 years. So we've gotten an awful lot of support from the puppy doe case, you know, so we're very hopeful that we can work with the House and Senate and the governor to make this bill become law.
One of your programs that has become now, I understand, a state model, and that is the Helping Hand program. Talk about that program and then talk about the expansion.
Well, it's similar to my Helping Hand program. It's under the same premise, of recycling durable medical equipment. For me, I saw it as a cost-saving measure for people who couldn't afford the high cost of durable medical equipment. And of course, we're talking about items like wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, canes, commodes, hospital beds. What I see, Mark, is a lot of people have these items they may no longer need, and they can donate them to our program in Quincy. Same premise for the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission. They are now going to be doing a similar program, or expanding on the program, that would make it statewide. And how it would work is we would use satellite offices. For instance, one location would be the Mass Hospital School in Canton. Another location could be the Boston Home in Dorchester, and then other independent living centers throughout the state. And these facilities have storage space available where people could donate these items to the area, and they would be given to people free of charge. They could be picked up and delivered by some of the handicap accessible vans with the lifts, so that if a person had a problem picking up or getting a piece of equipment delivered, that could be all factored into it. But again, it's a cost-saving measure with some of the high costs associated with healthcare, throughout the state and the country. So it's an innovative way that I've found, and we're going to be working with a lot of disability advocates to help promote this. But what I've seen firsthand is, you may have a senior that doesn't have the insurance coverage or some of the financing to get a wheelchair, an electric wheelchair or a scooter, and there could be an option for a free one. This program would allow that. We worked with someone just a week ago whose wheelchair, their electric wheelchair, broke down, and it was going to take about a month or so to get the parts. We were able to provide her with another wheelchair, excuse me, through this program. And if it weren't for that wheelchair, they'd be homebound. So now they can go get to work and be more productive.
I'll let you take a drink of water there as I prepare.
Thank you.
Working from that question, I'm going to move now to handicapped parking violations. Handicap parking fine increases because of utilizing a spot that was designated for a handicapped person. The person utilizing it isn't necessarily handicapped.
Sure. The idea behind this bill that I sponsored, Mark, was to come up with a way to fund cities and towns with the monies needed to make their town more ADA compliant, American Disabilities Act. Things like curb cuts, wheelchair lifts, elevators, renovations to public facilities, and it's expensive. There's a lot of great disability advocates out there that work for the Handicap Affairs, and they have plans that would be able to be implemented, that would bring their city or town up to code. But the problem is, a lot of times they just don't have the financing available to implement these programs because they're expensive. So what I wanted to do is come up with a mechanism or a way to generate the funding required without raising taxes or without raising fines. And how it works is we would increase the handicap parking fine for someone who violates the law by parking in a spot that's designated for someone who's disabled. And what we would do is, by doubling the handicap fine, take the additional monies from doubling the cost and have those monies go back to the city or town where the violation occurred. That money would go into a special account, and it would be used for the sole purpose of making that city or town more handicap accessible. So it's a way to fund these programs and renovations on the backs of the violators. And I know probably like yourself, you see these people who use the handicap parking spots because they're in a hurry or they're just too lazy when someone else can really use it.
You are a small business owner. Talk about small businesses and what state programs are available to small businesses.
As a small businessman, I can appreciate what some of the small businesses go through. And Mark, that's anyone from a single person who has a business all the way up to 500 employees. During the tough economic times, as a businessman and a legislator, I feel it's now even more important to make sure that business owners know there's resources out there for them. Through the SBA, the Small Business Administration program that the state offers, there's all types of programs that can provide them with extra consulting. You know, things like if you wanted to start up a business, for instance, help with permitting, licensing, finding a location. People who are currently in business, we can help them with their business plan if they want to maybe make some changes, maybe they want to expand. They may want to look into other areas like becoming a vendor, perhaps for the state or the federal government. There's opportunities for that. It might even be somewhere they want to import or export. You know, so there's advice and tools available that we could provide with them as we kind of navigate through these tough economic times. You know, in my district, you know, the Quincy Chamber of Commerce is very active. The Randolph Chamber of Commerce is very active. They're a great networking tool. So, and they're extremely active in both their communities with the business owners and the community. So, it's great to combine these resources together to make sure that these business owners know that these programs might be available to them.
Let's talk about motor vehicles and junior operators.
Sure. Well, one of the biggest, I think, calls that I get, or when I'm out in the community, is people complaining about texting and driving. It's just so dangerous, you know, and it seems to be happening more and more. People with the technology today, their iPhones or the different types of phone they have, they're multitasking. They're checking the emails, their text messages, their Facebook, whatever, but they're not paying attention. You know, so particularly with some of the younger drivers. I have a bill now that would set a stronger precedent, you know, for some of the violators of our drivers under 18, just to make sure that they're abiding by the rules. You know, currently the law in Massachusetts would be if they got caught, they could lose their license up to 60 days, and then it would go to 180 days, and then up to a year if they're caught making any of these violations. What my bill would do is make the first violation 180 days, and the second offense would be a year. There's no fine associated with it because we realize they're teenagers, but what we're trying to do is make the point that you have to be cognizant when you're driving on the road. Texting and driving is very, very dangerous. We're hearing more and more about some of the terrible, tragic cases that texting and driving encompasses. You know, we have the support from our EMT officials, the police, the fire, even the parents who know how dangerous texting and driving it is. So this law basically sets a precedent to people to hopefully make them think twice.
All it takes really is a second.
Yes. You know, another provision in the bill, Mark, would require the different companies to come out and talk to the students and give different classes on the dangers of texting and driving. And the final provision in that bill would be if someone was going to be getting their license, in some cases they may need to get a letter from the principal of that school that they're in good standing. So these are just different types of safeguards that we're trying to put in place to prevent that.
Certainly, because as I mentioned, it doesn't, to glance away just momentarily could be fatal.
That's right.
Talk about tax breaks and the interest of keeping a family member, a senior, at home.
Well, you know, what we try to do with some of the tax breaks for our seniors, Mark, is, you know, and I've experienced it firsthand. My mom, unfortunately, suffered from Alzheimer's before she passed away. And, you know, you realize how important it is to try to keep a loved one at home. And it's very expensive nowadays, you know, to put someone in assisted living or a nursing home. A lot of my friends are going through it now with some of their parents, you know, and you're just trying to do the right thing and take care of your parents. And if you're in a position where you can keep them at home, my intent was to give them a tax break, just to take some of the financial burden off that and allow them to stay at home in a loving environment where, you know, whether it's siblings or their son or daughter can take care of them for as long as they possibly can, you know. And it saves us money. in the long run too, with costs associated to the high expenses of our nursing homes and assisted living centers. So, you know, again, we want to provide some help to people who might be thinking of entertaining the idea of having maybe their mother or father stay with them for as long as we can, for as long as they can, excuse me, and keep them in a nice, safe, healthy environment. And we'd be more than happy to provide some of that information, you know, to your viewers if they'd like to get some more information on the bill.
As we still continue to talk about seniors and the elderly, talk about, this is tax season, we should mention. We are taping this program during tax season. So talk briefly about the circuit breaker.
Yes, you know, it is very timely, you know, and there's the senior circuit breaker out there that, you know, would probably be a good opportunity to say to the seniors, you know, we have information about the program, you know, individual requirements and the criteria may vary on each individual, but what we'd be happy to do is send them out information on the program. Again, they may be eligible for some tax breaks that they're not aware of. And we've put together a handout that we can get to our seniors. And after they get it, we can give some assistance over the phone, or if they'd even like to meet, to find out about maybe some savings coming their way.
We will close with interning at the State House and talk a bit about that. Certainly you have had interns through the years.
I've been lucky. I've had some great interns, you know, and they're a lot of fun to work with, you know. If anyone watching the show would be interested in interning in the State House, whether it's my office or some of my colleagues, you know, it's a great opportunity for someone who's interested in government. You know, they have an opportunity to kind of see firsthand the interactions of the State House. They do a number of different tasks. You know, they do legislation research, they do data entry, they get to attend committee hearings. You know, there's different seminars or lectures that they can take in. So we certainly encourage people to contact our offices. In some cases, they'll just contact us directly, or they may go through their school. But it's a great opportunity for someone to come in and work at the State House.
And we will end, based on what you just said, we will end with contact info once again.
Sure. Well, thank you again. It's always nice to be down here at QATV, and I appreciate the opportunity with you. People can contact my office at 617-722-2230. They can email me at brucej.ayers@yahoo.com, or take a look at some of our social media sites, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or YouTube. And again, we'd be happy to meet them during my district office hours.
Once again, thank you for taking up our invitation to come into the Quincy Access Television studio. Certainly another avenue to get your messages out to the public.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll see you again soon.
I hope so.
Thank you at home for watching. You have been watching a program of Quincy Access Television. Please continue to watch QATV for more locally produced programming.